This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
SuperTalk 99.7 WT and the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, owner of Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And welcome Sunday evening.
So good to see you, Carey Ann.
So good to see you. It is a great day.
So before we go into this, I've really got to know more about, I understand, rumors on the street that you guys have even done better than you've done in the past when it comes to your company in the stats nationally.
It was a good year last year, yes. We were very blessed to help many, many families. And
614 to be exact.
Yeah, actually a little more, but the reports came out, or the charts came out, per se. You know, it's like the Grammys, right?
Right.
But for mortgages. And so my team and I, we were ranked 16 in the country this for last year's service.
Just a wild guess. How many loan folks do you think, professionals, are there out there?
I will say, I just started a presentation to train more loan officers, and I saw a statistic that there was 502,000 mortgage license issued in 2017. So that's probably
that year?
Just that particular year. So there's a lot of loan officers out there. Yes.
In 1 year, there was over 500,000
that's what they said.
Licensees.
Yeah. Whether that statistic is not right or not.
And your number, well, I mean, there's, you know, 1,000,003 or 1,000,004 licensees in real estate.
For real estate, sure. Yeah. So
you're number 16.
It's a good number. Sweet 16, baby.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
It's a lot of hard work, and I can't do that without an amazing team. And I have one of the best in town, I think. And we have, combined experience of multiple years. Many of us have been together 10 plus years, working together. So we definitely can finish each other's sentences, and we all do the same dance at the same time. So it is a team effort for sure.
Without folks being in the business, it's probably really hard to appreciate just what an accomplishment that is. Each home has so many, each situation has so many dynamics, so many, personalities, so many issues they've got to overcome and all this kind of stuff. And you're being an investigator in each one of those cases to make sure that they get to the finish line.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting, and what I'm really proud of, maybe they're probably like, can we slow down a little bit? But, I always say I'm from the north, so we got to get the job done fast. But we average all of our closings under 20 days too. So
That's
all
incredible.
of those transactions average 20 days from start to finish. So
funny you say something like that. Yesterday, I presented an offer on for a buyer of mine, and the closing was scheduled to be the 18th of this month. And it's the 3rd or something like that,
sure,
or whatever day it is, and the agent immediately kicked back saying, well, that's too quick. You can't get something done like that. What, do you have a mortgage company that can do that? And I said, yes, I do, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
I really do.
Yes, you do.
So it opened the door to share. One of my favorite things that you, at that event that you went to, what one of my favorite was?
Yeah, what was that?
Your mama was there, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. It's really a cool story. So about 13 to 14 years ago, I brought my mom to my very first production awards banquet, and I was ranked last. So it was so hard to even make the trip, right? Mm-hmm. And we flew all the way to Hawaii. I brought her there, and it was so funny because I still was a wallflower. My mom ended up being the mayor of the entire company, and I'm still on the wall, not knowing anybody. Kind of on the lower part of the
You flew all the way to Hawaii, knowing you were in last place.
Well, yes, because it was a big deal. Just to make the trip was such an amazing accomplishment. Sure. But I was the last on the list for that particular trip, right? So you had to hit certain production numbers even to be able to make the trip. And so we had our seats, assigned seats, and was in the back of the room. And my mom's all 4'11", fabulousness, right? Mm-hmm. She's amazing. And she raised 4 kids. I'm her oldest. And she's always just been a huge cheerleader for all of us and a huge support in whatever we all wanted to do. And so I'm going up on stage to win my big award, the last one to be called. And she must have snagged the plate covers off of our fancy dinners and put them underneath the table. So when I got up there, she stood on the chair and she started clanking these plate covers, together to make a big deal and
what
a huge,
great mama.
huge sport. So
mama.
So I brought her back to this last trip, and growing up, she would always have this cowbell. So for every sport event or anything that we ever did in our family, there was a cowbell. And she would use it to bring us in for dinner. It was just our family cowbell. And so my mom had this fabulous looking purse that, this past weekend. I was like, oh, it's triangle. It's so, fabulous. How unique is this purse? And I really didn't know anything about it. And we are now, because we're ranked number one for Family Serve, we're ranked in the front row. And I'm wearing a ball gown because why would I not, to be fabulous. To be. And so I now get called up. And again, she's still 4'11". She could be 4'10" at this point of the game. But and she stands up there with her cowbell and, is so proud of her daughter.
Was that
again.
Was in the purse?
That was in the purse. So she now has a purse for the cowbell.
It sounds like we need a little more cowbell here,
I know,
Mom.
And it was really got me thinking, it doesn't matter what age your kids are. You really should celebrate your children no matter what and their accomplishments. And she always finds a way to make all of us feel so special. So,
well, you're one blessed young lady to have such an amazing mama. No wonder you're such an incredible mama. You had such a great example.
Oh, I did, and an amazing father too. It's so funny. My people say I'm 95% my dad. If you ever got to meet my dad, I'm so my dad, and just a little bit of my mom. So you can only imagine what my siblings are, and they're more like my mom. But I'm really blessed to have had amazing parents for sure. So, and that my hard work and strong work ethic. And striving to, just help as many, you kind of look at it as a challenge, is one that is so important. Yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, I was talking with a family and the gentleman is 64 years old, right? And he has been on his job for 38 years. 38 years. And prior to that, he was in the military. So he's a veteran.
Wow.
And his fabulous wife and he have been renting for 11 years now in the same location, paying $1,000, and they've never owned their own home,
Holy
right?
cow.
And so
he's 65 and never owned a home.
Yes, never owned his own home, and he's a veteran, right? And so we were able to work some approval numbers, and again, their income, is moderate to low income for their family, but just to be able to find a way, to assist that family, they approve under $200,000, but it's just you just get goosebumps, and that's the reason why we do what we do.
It is.
It's just to make a difference for folks and really help them, achieve the American dream of home ownership. So I can't wait for the day that I get to call them up, because I know they'll be crying and I'll be crying, because you could just hear it in their voices how excited and nervous they were, because this is a big leap for them, waiting for so long on it. But this is why we do what we do. So good stuff.
It absolutely is. We are both very competitive because we're competing with our own skills and abilities and so forth in our past or whatever. But the real joy, the absolute real joy, is helping these folks.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And and
we see so many stories. I mean, there's just so many stories, and you and I are working with one right now. And some of the stories are so cheerful, and some are so sad. I mean, they just kind of go up and down. And we when you have clients for life, you hold their hand throughout that whole process, right? Maybe their first home, their second home, their third home, and you see the ups and downs. Where life takes some of our clients as well. So we become emotionally invested, in it as well. It's just not a transaction.
No, you can't not. It's all about the emotional part.
Yeah, absolutely.
It always has been. I remember when my first year in business, I learned, and I still don't know how I did it, because I would, I remember this deal falling apart, and I didn't know how I was going to buy groceries at the time.
Right.
Okay. But yet I was able to put that on the back burner and go to my clients and hold and hug her while she cried, because she was so upset that they weren't able to close on this home. Back in the day, we didn't live in quite as a transparent a world, and sometimes those things crashed the day or two before.
Sure.
And unfortunately, that still happens today if we're dealing with the wrong lender, unfortunately. but it's just. Anyway, I think one of the key reasons why we're so successful in this business, Carey Ann, is simply because we have somehow been able to put our own feelings and our own needs, our own goals aside, and just put our clients first.
Yeah, I think there's so many folks, that I hear stories or talking with, this particular professional or that, and you just, cringe because there's a story there. There are people there. There's money there. There's furniture there. There's moving trucks there. There's more to the story than just, sorry, it can't be done.
Right.
You just have to really think 2 steps ahead. And I'm such a believer in that. And I'm thankful that my parents taught me that, because if you are not thinking 2 steps ahead, something can blow up,
Right.
Things happen. I mean, just the other day, a client of ours got so excited at work and quit his job 2 days prior to closing, only because he was so upset at the time, right? And didn't even think ahead. And so we had to be on our tippy toes thinking, okay, how are we going to fix this problem and still get this family, into this particular house? And he could quickly go find another job, with the profession that he was in. But again, things happen, right? Some stuff is out of my control, your control.
No, but we ride that roller coaster with him, though.
Oh, for sure. And, there's not only that client that we're working with, but when you now have a sale and a contract, now you have 2 clients.
There's multiple
and then
people
maybe that's
involved
4
in this.
clients, right?
Absolutely.
And 5 clients, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes that domino effect, of with so many families that we're working with, continues to grow as the month progresses. So we haven't even gotten into some questions
I know,
here.
and we have some great questions today, and we want to remind everybody to first please send your questions into questions at talkmusiccity.com. That's questions at talkmusiccity.com, or hashtag talkmusiccity.
That's Talk Music City, yes. Hey, so thank you so much for tuning in this Sunday evening. We are excited to have you here. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to start to answer all of your questions here on the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Great to see you, Carey Ann. This is Monte Mohr with Realty One Group Music City.
Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team, and we're happy to have you all tuning in tonight.
We have some awesome questions. We're so grateful that people are going to questions at Talk Music City and sending those questions in to us. This is kind of the lifeblood of our show here, so that we can make sure that we're empowering the Middle Tennesseans out there and other communities that they're listening in.
Yes.
That we take the mystery out of home buying and selling and financing, and so awesome to be here tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what question are you finding here?
Well, we've got stacks of them here, which we're grateful for, and we got one here. Do you want to read this one from Cindy?
So Cindy from Mount Juliet, she's saying, I'm putting my home on the market this year, and I'm getting mixed reviews from friends as to whether I should move out first and sell the place totally empty, or if I should sell it while we're living there. I prefer looking at an empty home myself when I look to purchase, but my friends say not everybody does that, and most would prefer seeing a home at least staged. I would appreciate any insights that you might have. Thank you, Cindy, for a great question.
That is a great question. So, Carey Ann, let me ask you that before I inflict you with my opinion.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? When you're out looking at property, would you rather see a clean slate, or would you rather see someone else's furnishings decorating that home? So
for me, I'm personally not a visionary. Mm-hmm. So having something there so I can actually see, I'm still like having paper in my hands, I'm still the old school way. Because I think it's hard to know if my bed would fit in that location, or if maybe my hutch would fit in this other location type of thing. So for me, I'm not a visionary, but I know others that would much rather, have a clean slate so they can, vision their own furniture there. But for me, so there's 2 ways. I would love to see it staged the way I would want my house staged, right?
Right.
But then other people may have their own look and feel that could be overwhelming, and maybe turned somebody off, So what are your thoughts?
Well, from my experience, I have found that it's better to have it staged than empty.
Sure.
Buying a home is an emotional decision, and it's hard to get emotionally connected to an empty room.
Right.
I think. I know there are those folks that would rather see, an empty room and imagine, but I think it's probably less than 10% in my experience most of the time, especially when people go online. That's why I think it's especially critical that we have photos before someone moves out.
Sure.
If we aren't able to, if we've come along, one of the things I've shown my agents recently, that if we come along after they've already moved out, it's hard to get it's hard to get pictures that will attract anybody. So you can actually have them staged digitally. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So and you can tell them what kind of furniture you want. Even.
Interesting. Really.
So that helps people getting them in the front door, but it's still an empty house when you get there.
Sure. Right.
But again, it's numbers of eyes online that translate to numbers of knocks on the door that translates to the number of people walking through the home, which increases the odds of finding that eventual buyer. So my vote with Cindy here is leave the furnishings, minimize things.
Sure, minimize them, right.
Minimize things, declutter, but leave the dining room set in the dining room. Maybe take the hutch away if it's a tight room. Minimize things. I would spend a couple $100 or whatever it takes to get a home stager in there. I think it's well worth it, really.
So it's interesting because I just went on a home tour, a bus tour around Creve Hall, I think it was. And so this is my first time seeing 10 houses, right how it is. So some of them were empty. Some of them, had furniture in them. And one house had every texture there was. So it was an empty home. So you could see how the cabinets were this color and the wall was that color and the floor was this texture. And, they had an inlay set, for the dining and an inlay set for, the kitchen and things. And to me, I was so turned off because there was so much going on from a textural, a color. Like I couldn't myself see the bigger picture or how that could actually be amazing. It's because supposedly a designer designed it and, put so much money, clearly this was that way, this was this way. I mean, it was a lot going on. I questioned.
And that was in Creve Hall?
I questioned if the designer, drank a bottle of champagne prior to putting it together. I didn't know. And the home itself was a green color as well. So there was a lot going on.
That's too much.
But if it was staged a certain way, maybe you and I would not have felt all of the things that were going on.
Things wouldn't be yelling at you at that level.
Right, exactly.
So the home was empty except had all these textures.
Right. It had different flooring for each each room. The colors were vibrant in every other room.
Did you go out and look at homes with a bunch of realtors?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome that you did that.
Yeah, I mean,
with Laura and
I got invited to do that, and that was an amazing.
She's an awesome broker.
Oh, she is. She's one of the best, and she opened my eyes to something so unique, and something so different. And so then you would go to the next house, and you would see it aged, but then you would see another home that was staged, and it was quite lovely.
But was your mind blown as to what it takes to be $300,000 in Creve Hall? I mean, I don't know what price point you were looking at, but we're talking, it's incredible. These little 1,600 square foot homes, and part of that 1,600 is the one car garage that was brought into it. Finished square footage. Yeah, I just helped somebody buy a home just a couple of days ago in Creve Hall, and it keeps blowing my mind what people are willing to pay for these little homes.
Yeah,
in
is
Creve
it
Hall.
Location? I mean, it's right off the interstate.
It's a wonderful location. There's no question. And the other part of that is it's hard to find a acre lot. That in any sort of affordable location and price point.
So there was another fabulous person there named Megan, and she works with a title company, and she actually lives in Creve Hall, and she was sharing all the neat things that they do. So even though it's such a large area, they make it so quaint and have activities and different things going on. So it's really just a neighborhood, even though it's so large, in a particular area.
It's got a great reputation, and my folks have been determined to buy a home in there. Yeah. And now they're moving from a home that's over 3,000 square feet, just off of Holt Road, beautiful home, and I'm almost embarrassed every time I show them these similarly priced homes with half the square footage, no garage. But it is, they have their reasons why they want to move there, and it's a great, I've always liked Creve Hall, but I'd never dreamed the prices would be at that high. Oh, sure. And then there is, the landscape is overgrown, that feel is just, the maturity there is wonderful. And the backyard, there were some amazing backyards. There was one that had a little hill, and I was just thinking of sledding, down. It was bringing back, all the memories of a kid. Now, there is one house in that area that was the oldest home, I think, in Nashville. Really? And so it is a historic home, and it was on
the market for, I think, $1 million. But it was so unique. It was just, I wish it had more land, to it, because it was just a beautiful white, old, historic home there. And the ceilings were so grand, and the doorways were so tall. And if you think about it, and this is what I was talking with a lot of agents, it got to a point where back in the day, doorways were so tall, right? The baseboards were just beautiful, monstrous and beautiful. And then we went away from that.
Right.
And now we're going back to that. Isn't it interesting how times have just, they say history repeats itself or whatever, but it was just gorgeous with all of the real true wood, and the nail punches and everything. But it was surrounded by, 2001 homes type of thing. So it was interesting to see that right there. But yeah, it was Creve
I think
Hall
it's awesome that
area.
you're out there with those real estate professionals and getting to see the properties and hanging out with them and so forth. I don't know how you have time to do that, being a busy lady that you are, but I applaud you for that.
I think it's an important. I think the more that we're educated, not only on the loans, but understand what our market is out there. What are these houses? I mean, all I see is an address, and then I don't even see the picture. That's part of the reason why I think
it's awesome that you're doing this, so you actually can put a face of a house to a loan.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
And so. And there's many more areas, and I think it's so neat. You can go just half a mile one location, half a mile down the other location, 2 miles north, 2 miles south. You have so many different, looks and feels and
one of the beautiful things about Nashville.
It is. It is just a well-rounded city for sure. Hey, so thank you so much for tuning in. We are just getting started here on the Talk of Music City on Sunday evening. We're going to come back and answer a few more questions. Again, you're listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, owner and broker of Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
We're back, Carey Ann.
We are. Man,
it was great talking about that last topic. I think it surprises some folks that they would think that they need to move everything out and not have a home stage, but it's so much better. I mean, I've seen exceptions when the furniture is really nasty, or that kind of thing, or there's a million dogs running around the house or whatever. But overall, I think it's the answer for Cindy is, assuming your furniture is not looking bad, keep it furnished.
Keep it.
Just minimize it, keep it furnished. And we can help you with some folks that can help you staging if you have that.
Right. Yeah, that's a great business to be in for sure. So we've got another question here. Who is it from?
It's from Virginia. Lebanon. She asked, my husband lost his job last year, and we are 2 months behind on our house payment. Doggone it. We are thinking of just walking away from the home. Don't do that, Virginia. I'm sorry. I get caught up in these questions. We don't want to do that, but don't know that we have any options. Sure. Can you please give us some advice on what to do?
Whew.
That's painful.
Yeah, I know it is. Painful. But I always say everybody has a story, and we've all been somewhere in life at a certain time. And so when it comes to, losing the job, is your intention to get a new job, right? Or we don't see that in the near future. What is the game plan there? When it comes to already being delinquent, they will start moving you into foreclosure discussions after a period of time.
Do you know what that period of time is?
Well, they're supposed to, after 3 full past due payments, I think the discussions begins, right? So I think the process is very, very long. I mean, there was discussions with people that were giving back their homes and living in them for over a year, right? And never making payments back in the day, right? Yeah. So now I think things have been sped up and paperwork has been caught up. And so, they're probably looking at, a period of time, 3 full months past due. Now you can call the lender. Then there's multiple programs. Again, they want to help you find a way, but you have to communicate. Right. Yes. They want to help you. They'll, sometimes those programs are not the best, but again, if they bridge you during the time of difficulty, where then you can, when you get yourself back on your feet, we then maybe can remodify and reorganize, those debts. But trying to keep yourself above water and keeping your house is key, because there's probably a decent amount of equity now with the houses that are out there right now.
That's what I would tell Virginia. Let's sit down and let's explore what the home is worth. Let's explore what you owe on it. let's see how much equity is there. But like you said, if you communicate with the mortgage company, they don't want to foreclose on the property.
Right.
They don't want to own property.
Right.
That's not their business. Their business is to allow you to own it and collect interest on it.
Right.
That's how they, I'm especially empathetic with this. I don't know if you know this or not, but I almost lost my own home back in 2010, 11. I was actually only a few months away from losing it.
Oh, wow.
Things were so bad, and it was such a crazy time. Those that were in the business, back in 2007, in December of 2007, I thought it was a wise thing to buy real estate, so I bought $1 million worth, thinking that not a problem. And then next thing I know, the market changes, and a couple
overnight,
years
right?
Yeah, overnight.
Yeah,
it was months after I closed on those properties. It was months after I sold another home. But I got, back in September of 2007, I'll never forget, I had to sit down and make the decision whether I continued marketing my business or if I made my mortgage payment. I didn't have the money for both.
Oh.
And that's a really tough decision, because especially for a realtor,
Sure.
Because I'd shown, back then I'd shown some of my fellow realtors homes that were losing them to foreclosure. And I thought to myself, oh my God, how embarrassing would that be? How terrible would that be to be in the industry and to have that stigma, people walking in your house, other realtors walking in your house, you're supposed to be successful.
Sure.
Well, I lived in those shoes then. It was extremely painful. If it weren't for a miracle happening in my life, part of that miracle is my wonderful wife coming in my life and helping.
She's fabulous.
Helping our business and so forth. But I'm especially empathetic with this. Virginia, our suggestion would be, let's sit down with a competent real estate professional, and explore what options you might have as far as selling your home. You probably have equity. I don't know the details, but don't walk away from it. That doesn't help anybody. And I saw a stat not long ago. It's incredible, the percentage of homeowners that when they find themselves in a tough situation, they do just walk out in the middle of the night, not knowing that there are other options.
Right. I think they just become paralyzed and not just realizing you're right. There's other options.
You're embarrassed,
for sure.
And you don't want anybody knowing about it, so you think, just let me bail here and just go start over somewhere.
And from a lending standpoint, having a couple delinquencies. So let's say you are past due, and then you could maybe put a game plan together to get yourself back, on your feet. But that's going to look so much better in the near future when you go to try to purchase a new home in comparison to if you were to foreclose.
Right.
Because if you were to foreclose, you're now looking to have to wait 3 full years from the foreclosure date on a government loan, or 7 years on a conventional loan, right? And so
7 years after you, I didn't
7
know
years,
that.
yeah. And so sometimes specific houses, we had a situation just recently, actually, that this great lady, she had a foreclosure. It was 4 years ago. But the home that she wanted was a flip property. And so the seller, so technically you had to go conventional, because on a flip property, and to kind of explain what a flip property is when, and we were kind of talking about it in a previous episode, where a company will purchase your home and or a person will purchase your home and they want to flip it, right? They want to put a little, lipstick on it here and there, right? And they're going to flip that property and increase the price, let's say, or maybe they don't even increase the price. They just, raise it just a little bit, let's just say. But on a government loan, which is an FHA loan, you have to wait 91 days from the date that the seller purchased that property before you can write a contract on the new property. So that forces people to wait, right? And so in this situation, this lady, her credit score was fine. Everything was in line. She worked really hard to get herself back on her feet and reorganized. But she was 4 years out of a foreclosure, and she was a perfect FHA buyer. But this particular home had a flip rule, and the sellers wouldn't wait. And so that just fell apart. And so the sellers were looking for a conventional buyer, because conventional, you only have to wait 30 days from the date that the seller, purchased. But that's something to think about too, where if you go and just give it away just because, give back the home just because, you're losing out on all that equity and you're losing out on opportunities, to be able to purchase, down the road.
Yeah, that
sooner than later.
That whole topic again pokes that bear of those iBuyers that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and That's such a frustration, I think, personally. I won't name any names, but that's just a frustration.
Well, we have 3 of those that just crossed our desk today, and they all have to be conventional buyers because, and one buyer actually really wants to go FHA because of cash reasons, right? And because of the flip rule, that seller who's aggressive, they're not going to take that buyer unless they go conventional.
That's part of my frustration is the fact that the iBuyer has taken it away from one segment of because they raised the price.
Right.
And so the demographic that can afford, let's say hypothetically, like the one I used to use hypothetical numbers, that people that couldn't afford over $300,000. Well, the iBuyer got it at $265. That story I shared, and then they fixed it up and they raised the price to $310. So they took it away from the person who could afford up to $300, and now they're also it's affecting the ability of the person who wants to go FHA or needs to go FHA, because now it's no longer available. They are selling it to somebody eventually, but anyway, I need to get off that. It's just a sensitive thing so with some of us real estate professionals because we see that that's changing some dynamics out there, and I'm not sure for the best.
Well, if you think about how many contracts have that as a seller that are crossing my desk now, that means that many sellers are, utilizing it. So it's an interesting piece. But, definitely, Virginia, thank you so much for your question. We hope that our explanation is helpful and gives you a little bit of guidance. But if you have any, more questions in regard to the topic, do not hesitate to reach us here at questions@thetalkofmusiccity.com. questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Life happens, folks, and there's no judgment here. That's why I was as transparent as I was sharing my own situation not that long ago where I almost lost a home. So life happens. Right. But it's best to hit it, let's just talk about it straight on with a professional that can help you get out of that because you don't want to walk away from it. It will be a long time before you can ever own another home if you do that. At the same time, the mortgage companies, they want to help you work through that.
Well, we're actually, working with a client right now. We could probably talk about that.
Yeah.
This is a perfect segue to that where you and I have helped this individual for the last 7 years, I think, purchase real estate, purchase and sell real estate. And self-employed, and things have changed in his business, right? Where he's still, when I look at a P&L, the gross receipts are over millions of dollars, right? But the expenses are higher than they used to be.
He's the owner of the company, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, as I'm sure you can. The overhead is tough sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this individual, who is a veteran as well, who always made mortgage payments on time for the last so many years that you and I have been working with him, it had a situation from a business standpoint where, things are a little bit more tight, right? And the income is, dropping, and has forced him to be a little bit more concerned and wasn't able to make his mortgage payment for 3 months, right? And was past due. And so we're in a situation right now because of that, even though he has had on-time payments for so many years, 3 times delinquent, he's quickly looking to sell, but trying to get him to purchase now has been a little bit more difficult than it was in the past, is what we're saying. Yeah. So you have somebody who has $1 million company who's still struggling as well.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter
sometimes.
what, the book looks like. It can look, one way or another. Sometimes life just, gets away from us and things get a little bit more, stressed from a financial standpoint. So, but I'm being told that we have come up to the end of our 3rd segment here.
It's incredible how fast time goes on this show because we're obviously both really into it.
Yes, we love this show. Hey, so check us out also on Facebook. We have a great podcast there. If you have not had the opportunity to visit with us every Sunday evening, we've got the Talk of Music City Real Estate podcast there. You can always see every episode listed there as well. We're on iTunes. Don't forget that as well. So thank you again for tuning in. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here with Realty One Group Music City.
And Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Please send your questions to questions@talkmusiccity.com or #TalkMusicCity. We love your questions. We're depending on your questions.
We do.
This whole effort revolves around getting those questions answered.
So we've got a great question here from Claire. She is out of Goodlettsville. We are putting our home on the market next month and moving to Florida. My husband wants to include the furniture when we sell. Is that a good idea? What do you think, Monty? Is that a good idea?
It's probably not.
It's not? Don't they do that in Florida?
They do it in Florida.
What is it called? There's a certain terminology of it. Turnkey?
Just selling it furnished is all. But,
okay.
I moved up here from Florida, 20 years ago. And you saw that a lot down there because so often those were second homes, I guess, or beach homes or all that kind of situation. And to be honest with you, the furniture from here doesn't really match well down there. And that kind of thing. Not that many antler chandeliers. I don't know why.
Yeah, we would probably have to keep that there. You're right.
But anyhow, no, in my experience, unfortunately, people think that because you paid $5,000 for that big old couch, that it's going to be worth that kind of price. It's best not even to get into that. And if you do get into it, do it after the contract. Don't make it part of the contract. Mm-hmm. Last I heard, most mortgage companies don't want to put a 30-year mortgage on a sofa.
Well, right. Well, if it's listed in the contract, the underwriters will deduct it for the value. And so they'll deduct it off the price of the home. Right. And so if you wanted to add a specific item in the home that normally would go with the particular house, you would have to say no value. So TVs, no value type of thing.
Lawnmower, no value.
Right. But if it gets into things that are not normal for the home, maybe the tractor in the backyard or, maybe the patio set would work or something like that. But depending upon the good would determine if the underwriter would accept that as no value or if they would create a value and deduct it off the price of the home. So you're right. Having it an outside, sale would be one. I was someone who did that. I looked at the house and there was no way that I could even think about shopping for the particular size items that I would need. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I was just thinking how expensive that item would be.
Right.
How expensive that item would be. I would just rather see if I can purchase this, or there was a bar area, let's just say, or there was a bar. And for me to go find stools to go around this bar area would take a lot of time, and I like the stools. So where are people going to sit right after I purchase this home, right? So can I just purchase those stools for the backyard type of thing? And so we did put a separate agreement in after closing for all of those items. For sure.
So you did not include those in your initial offer?
I did not, right. But I did lower my price of my offer with the understanding that I was going to buy, the furniture from that particular price. So I knew they were going to get another $1 or $2 from me.
Right.
It was interesting. So there was the house that we purchased was a designer's home. So I feel like the designer purchased the items and then the house was built around the items. Doors, chandeliers, light fixtures, everything is antique, right? Wow. Mm-hmm. And so there's a beautiful antique light fixture above the what would be a pool table area. Mm-hmm. But again, if I don't get their pool table, like I wouldn't have the area for a pool table, which means I would have to purchase that, right? So little things like that. However, I quickly said I want this, all light fixtures, et cetera, et cetera. The contract gets agreed upon. And a week later, the designer calls back and says, "Oh, no. I actually wanted to take that light set, with us on the next house, And I got whiff of exactly what she thought the value was and what she wanted to sell it for me. And I knew too much. I said, no, I'm just going to go ahead and stay quiet and say the contract's the contract. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for playing. And, we're going to move right on. I'm going to keep the lights up.
That's a reminder for everybody, because if I just got a call yesterday from one of my clients saying, well, look, I didn't mean to leave my water softener in there. I said, we should have talked about that before now.
Sure.
It's a month later.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the hardest part. And I'm very thankful that we did get some of the furniture. Let's talk about the TVs. This was interesting for me, right? I didn't need the TVs in the home, but I guess you have to leave the backs of the TVs, which then if I took the backs of the TVs off, that would have left holes, which means I would have to have spent more money to have the holes or fixed, right?
It's easier to...
I would just say, let me have the TVs, right? Yeah. So that was something that was interesting for me. If you're not familiar with that, your average Joe, you're like, I don't need the TV. It's fine. I'd rather to have this price, and all of a sudden now you're stuck. You go to do your final walkthrough and you see this huge wall hanging of, of the TV.
You've got to do
what
something
was
now.
a TV.
It's part of the contract is to leave the bracket, but you got this big naked bracket there. What are you going to hang on that? A deer head or something?
No. And then I take that off, and now you've got holes.
Right.
And now you have to pay to get, repairs and things. And maybe you would go in and paint, but there's a little bit different where I'm picking up some paint myself and do it myself on a weekend. Now I've got a patch and too much. Yeah. Keep the TV. Just don't turn it on.
These
Leave
flat
it there.
screens have made it's cool that they're providing more space in a living room, but it does come with it the challenge of dealing with the holes or the bracket.
Yeah. Are there anything else that is required now in the contracts that have to stay in homes?
Really, I think typically window coverings. And one of the challenges with our contract, as you probably know, is it changes every year.
Okay.
Every single year, they have some modifications to it.
Okay.
A few years ago, for instance, the window coverings weren't included. Then the next year they were included. Then the next year they weren't included. I mean, just went
As
back
in
and
the
forth.
blinds or the shutters?
Yeah, all window coverings.
Okay, so curtains?
Curtains are window coverings.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And that's what one area people don't understand either a lot of times is window coverings. I
paid for those curtains.
Window coverings are window coverings.
Aha.
Blinds are something different. But window coverings are probably pretty much all inclusive.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
she didn't leave the curtains?
But I had to pay for the curtains.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because you had window coverings in your contract, right?
Right. So I didn't. Interesting. Oh, although I will tell you, there's a great consignment shop for curtains. Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just for curtains?
It's on 100 Oaks down there, and you can bring your draperies down there. It's a consignment drapery place.
Wow.
Because I was like, what am I going to do? There was one with deers on it. I had enough deers in the house. So I said, I don't need curtains with deers on it too.
So for the folks that haven't seen your house, how many deers do you have on the walls?
Well, I have a whole, Rudolph and all of his crew.
Yeah, it's like a whole herd. Deers are in herds, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's beautiful, and it's
amazing.
Fabulous.
Yes. It's amazing. I'm just asking how many.
Yeah, they're very large trophy deer that Aubrey's dad shot over his lifetime. So and it's great to have. But it is funny. We'll have to tell it in a different story. It was a little bit of a Dateline story. I'll have to tell you that. Comical story.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward
later
to it.
on. Although I'm never on Dateline, so people are probably like, "Oh God, what are you telling us?" But this is when Carey Ann stays quiet. She goes mute.
So we have another question. I think we have time for one more. This is
good.
I've always wondered about this one. This is from Candace in Bellevue.
Okay.
Thank you, Candace. First of all. So she says, this is a question for Carey Ann. My husband says when we purchase our next home soon, we should buy down the interest rate as low as we can since we plan on living there forever. Is this a good idea? She's asking. Thank you. And thank you, Candace, again for the question.
Yes, Candace, thank you so much. So again, there's a calculation. So the lender's going to give you what today's par interest rate is. And then every interest rate is based upon a cost or a rebate, right? So the higher the interest rate, more money comes back. And again, some lenders may keep, we give all money on the rebate back to the buyer. So in essence, that the higher the rate, more money can go towards your closing cost, right? Okay. So the opposite happens as well. So you could buy that rate down. Mm-hmm. There is not, for an eighth, it costs this. For a quarter, it costs that. It does follow the bond market. And so that does shift daily. But if you were to do the calculation, again, you reference here, you're going to stay long term. So if you do the calculation on the savings into the cost, it's going to tell you your recoup time. Okay. And if you felt as if you were going to be there longer than that recoup time, then that's going to put you in the green, and that's going to be a win for you. And you also can talk to your CPA to see if that is a tax deduction as well, where you can maybe write those discount points off. So, but that is something that we do a lot of. If it's a make sense situation, you have a little bit of extra money, not putting it down fully on the down payment, because every $1,000 you put down only changes your payment by $8 to $10. But this way, that same dollar figure may lower your interest rate and help you in the long run over the 30 years. So
is there a maximum that you can reduce one?
No, you could choose to purchase. There's not a cap on that.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And again, I think it gets to the point of what makes sense, right? I mean, the cost, again, we're not talking small dollars. Sometimes the bond market forces that to be 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, right? And so you just want to double check what that cost is at the time when you're looking to lock in your interest rate.
Great information, Carey Ann. Another great time sitting together, and I always learn so much with you. I appreciate
This has
that
been
so
a lot of fun over the last so many weeks here.
It really has been.
I've learned more, myself.
Really?
Even listening to myself. Too funny. I'm definitely not going to quit my day job.
No, don't. No, you're the best. I was telling the team today at that meeting, you're the best.
Oh, well, very good. Hey, well, thank you so much for tuning in to the Talk of Music City Real Estate. Again, we just appreciate you coming to us every Sunday evening at 5 p.m. Again, if you have any questions or topic suggestions, please reach out to us at questions@talkofmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com. We thank you again for tuning in. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.